The black points on the map, which are the most common incident types, those are the aggravated assaults in which the victim sustained a gunshot wound, but they survived their injury. And then the red points on the map are the homicide incidents in which the victim sustained a fatal gunshot wound. These represent all of the data points that DC Smith just went over. So we've had 10 homicides, 40 aggravated assaults, 1 domestic aggravated assault. Those are all represented on this map for a total of 51 incidents year to date. And we've had a total of 62 victims within those incidents year to date.
Any questions on that?
Yes, Vice Mayor, this is Antoine Callaway. I do have a question. Based on the current data, are we for the Northwest area, which shows a lot of that crime? Um, are we on pace, or is that where most of the additional violence that we've seen kind of go up? Is that where most of that's happening? I don't want to make an assumption. I just want to, try to ask that question if it's possible.
I think that I can speak to that, sir. So in zone 1, which is the southeast portion of the city, that is the pink colored area on the map, we've had 11 incidents of gun related violence. Then in zone 2, which is the northeast section of the city, which is the green colored portion of the map, we've had 9 incidents. In the yellow portion of the map, which is zone 3, which is southwest, we've had 6. And then in the blue portion of the map, which is zone 4, the northwest section of the city, we've had 25 incidents in which a victim has been struck by gunfire. So it is predominantly within zone 4, northwest, and zone 1, which is southeast. That's where the majority of our incidents have occurred this year. And that's pretty on par with what we've seen in years past. Those are typically the 2 zones of the city where the majority, not all, but the majority of our violence unfortunately occurs.
Thank you.
Alicia, can you please share the number that you shared for zone 1 southeast again?
That would be 11 incidents.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions at this point? I don't know if Captain Puckett, I'm not sure if we got down to this exact percentage, but one of the questions in the chat box is what percentage of the gun incidents are gang related? I know you kind of gave us an overview of what your focus is, but do you have kind of a percentage estimate based on what you're finding?
I don't have that with me. Alicia says she can run and grab that real fast and bring it up.
Great, thank you.
So we can get that real fast. I can give you some overall goals that we've got established already moving forward to help reduce some of these things if you'd like.
Okay.
Alicia had run some numbers for me, and I asked her to just do 6 months worth of data as far as actual gunshot wounds victims, whether they were homicide or just aggravated assault. And since May the 1st, we had 39. Of those 39, 17 of those occurred between the hours of noon and 11 p.m. So right now, I've tasked my team with trying to reduce that block of numbers by 21%. If we can reduce half of them, that's 8.5 shootings for a 6-month period. That will reduce it 21%. That's the primary goal, which will be a very good reduction that we can actually measure and go with. In addition to that, We started this unit with a 2-week operation, and that focused on some target areas as well as target offenders. From there, we arrested 13 persons from different charges ranging from possession of a firearm as a felon to narcotics possession such as heroin, marijuana, meth, and cocaine. We seized 5 guns over the past 10 days as well from that operation that we did, and we've also served 10 warrants. And I know at least of those 13 people, 4 of those individuals were affiliated with gangs that we arrested. And the other ones were also associated with gang members, because that's what we were targeting specifically, either gang members that we positively identified or associates of theirs.
Thank you. I think that information is critically important for the work that we're looking at and partnering with you all on reduction efforts. So thank you for that. If that's something that Alicia can share with me and then I can share out, that would be great.
Outstanding.
Thank you. All right, I want to shift now to, if you have questions that come up as you're thinking through this and reflecting on it, just put them in the chat box. But I want to shift now to Mr. Merchant. Lloyd, we're glad to have you here today. If you could tell us a little bit about you and some of the work that you've begun in your new position as the Community Mitigation and Volunteer Coordinator.
Yes, sir. I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited about this position and getting out here working in the community. A little bit about my background, if that's what you're asking me. I joined the military. I got out. I served. I did nine years in the Army as honorable discharge as a staff sergeant. Upon exiting the Army, I was recruited by the Roanoke City Police Department. And I was a police officer. I became a police officer in the city of Roanoke I stayed here for two years and a couple of months. And after leaving there, I went into criminal justice, and I worked as first a surveillance officer, then I moved up to a parole officer, then ultimately retiring as a parole supervisor. And I graduated from Liberty University, hold a bachelor's in criminal justice, bachelor of science in criminal justice. And as far as right now, this job, I think it's going to be rewarding. Not only it's going to be rewarding for the community, the members of this community. Right now, I've reached out to some of the providers, the local providers, such as Department of Social Services, the Housing Authority. I talked to some folks at the school. Also FAT, and we're currently working on a brochure that we want to hand out. Everything obviously is pending approval. And the folks that I've talked to, everybody's really, really excited about this opportunity to be a volunteer. I've confirmed actually 4 volunteers, and they're really, really excited about the opportunity to come out here and work as a volunteer in this city. We're hoping, and speaking with the chief, we're hoping to launch. I'm hoping within the next week or so. There's still some logistics that needs to be worked out, and I'm hoping to get that completed very, very soon. So that's basically where we are right now. And obviously, if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them if I can.
Thank you. I'm hoping you can stay on the call as we go into breakout groups to meet with our rapid response group.
Yes, sir.
Because I think that's the place of greatest intersection with the work that you're doing and the work that we're doing. And I know that we can be helpful in terms of filling you in on our efforts and how we can collaborate most closely on that. So I'm hoping you can stay on today, and I've already assigned you to that working group. So
okay, not a problem.
All right. One other thing I'd like to cover, which Captain Puckett, you sort of addressed this, but I know that the police department has been addressing some internal organizational changes. Can you elaborate a little more on what some of those changes are and some of the refocused efforts that you're taking, not only in relation to the new gang unit, but into some other focused areas that you're shifting to?
Yes, sir. Like I was saying earlier, the biggest thing was we added a second lieutenant to criminal investigations unit, and that created the special investigations unit. And the idea behind that was to get everyone who dealt with violent crime under the same house so we could communicate better and more efficiently, and work across the board. In addition to that, we also did some things such as we recreated the records lieutenant position, and they would be taking charge of some of the quarterly audits and stuff to help take things off of patrol supervisors, so they could be out in the field more with their officers and help guide them and direct them in the violent crime areas, and so the patrol could be more productive that way. And one of the issues that we face as an agency as well is recruitment. So we have provided a recruiter spot for the academy that eventually will be filled, we hope, and that way we can get more officers that are either certified or have to go through our academy, and that'll help with patrol shortage of manpower that we have right now. Those are probably the biggest changes you've seen, along with our iStar unit. Alicia now answers directly to the chief. Before, she was under our community response team.
If it's 508 compliant, Cassie asked that.
I'm sorry?
All right, someone was unmuted. Go right ahead.
Okay, so as I was saying, the chief has put the iStar unit itself under him. That way the department would get a unified message from him as far as the direction that he wants to go, with all the units, whether it's CRT, patrol, or CIU. So that's the major components of the reorganization as it stands.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot of information that's been shared this morning. Are there any questions that any of the committee has, or any questions that anyone wants to pose in the chat box?
Vice Mayor, we have those game stats you were looking for.
Oh, great, thank you.
Okay, so out of those 51 incidents year to date, 60.8% are confirmed to be gang related. So what that means is either the victim in the incident or the suspect or known offender in the incident is a VSIN confirmed gang member.
Okay.
An additional 17.6% of those incidents are suspected to be gang related. So either the victim or the offender in those incidents is associated with gangs. However, they are not confirmed to be a gang member. And then 11 incidents, or 21.6% of the total incidents, are not gang related at all. They were separate incidents of gun violence. So total for either suspected or confirmed to be gang related is 78.4% of those incidents.
Okay, can you give the breakdown of the 78.4 one more time?
60.8%, or 31 of the 51 incidents, are confirmed to be gang related.
Okay.
17.6, or 9 of the 51 are suspected to be. And then 21.6, or 11 of the 51 incidents have no gang affiliation whatsoever.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on to our next item, if you'll bear with me. Find out where I am. Okay. go back out to another document. Okay, what I want to share with you next before we go into our breakout rooms to continue our work is a summary of where we are currently in our work together. For those who are with us for the first time today, just a brief recap. This task force was created in June of last year by the City Council. We began meeting during that time, and reported in November a list of about 22 recommendations that covered 5 focus areas: safer neighborhoods, education, reducing gang activity, violence and incarceration, recidivism, city service and rapid response, and communication and marketing. Of these initiatives, we have been working over the past year. We had to take a break during COVID, the early stages of COVID, because we weren't able to meet officially. When we were given the go-ahead to meet virtually, we resumed our meetings. And during that time, we began to identify some key initiatives, which you can see listed here and which we've been reporting out. Within each of these key areas, focus areas, our work to date and today, is to identify our top priority in each working group, and also to identify any budgeted amount that we would like to dedicate toward that top priority. That doesn't mean that these other parts of our working groups are not important. We're at a stage of wanting to identify our key priorities, and we'll be bringing those forward in our presentation to City Council on Monday. In talking with the leaders of each of the working groups, we identified the following top priorities. For the safer neighborhoods, a top priority is to focus on an interactive community storytelling public art project. This is in collaboration with the Roanoke Arts Commission, to hear stories of youth, adults, citizens regarding community health and safety. So this is a top priority of the group. Obviously, this is designed through storytelling to also help us address what helps people feel safe, what are they concerned about, what can contribute to a healthy community. And all in the background of all of that is obviously reducing incidents of gun violence. For the education work group, top priority is vetting curricula for best practices on educating youth on empathy in relation to prevention and intervention of trauma related to gun violence. Within the reducing gang activity, violence, and incarceration recidivism, our top priority is to hire a youth and gang prevention coordinator in the city to build relationships with youth in the community, create educational programs for community partners on practices to reduce gang activity and violence, train and coordinate a mentoring program, or bringing together the mentoring stakeholders in the community, and creating supportive programs for youth, including trauma resiliency and employment opportunities. And then within the city services and rapid response, top priority is to create a 24-hour rapid response volunteer team to provide wraparound services for individuals and families impacted by incidents of trauma, including gun violence. And this works alongside the new position that we heard about with Mr. Merchant through the Roanoke Police Department. So this heightens the partnership and collaboration. And then in communications and marketing, the top priority is to create a branded public influence, evidence-based marketing campaign to reduce gun violence in the community. Chris Turnbull, who is part of this working group, is going to be leading a strategic marketing planning session with working group leaders and some marketing partners initially. That's going to be the initial meeting. And then out of that, we'll be engaging a broader base of participants. So that's kind of an overview of the top priorities that have been identified by the working group leaders and the working groups. So I wanted to share that overview with you. And again, as we prepare to go into our working group sessions today, please feel free to review that. Also, you have two tasks to report back on today. One is confirm your top priority, and two is confirm any budget recommendations that you have to go along with that, so that we can report that out. Any questions about that process as we go into our working groups today? All right, I'm going to send us out into the breakout rooms. I know that some of our groups are small. For this, I believe education, let me just take a look here. We have enough for our neighborhoods groups. I'm going to send you out education and city services. And then I'm going to keep the marketing and the gang activity in the main room. Once you've gone to your groups, then for folks who are still in the main room that may want to be assigned to one of those other groups, we'll work that out. All right, it is now 10:45. I'd like for us to come back at 11:20 to report back our findings and any updates that we have on our working group progress. And here we go. Take this out, which one is here? And safer neighborhoods, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, okay.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I thought my mic was on mute.
Okay, Antoine, before you begin, let me just ask any of the, hold on a sec. Any of the media who are in this room, if you have a preference on if you want to go to any of the other breakout sessions or if you just want to stay here. All right. I guess we'll all stay here. And I'm trying to find, I'm showing Tommy Page in here, but I know he's Safer Neighborhoods. Oh, yeah, well, I don't know. Tommy, if you can hear me, you just need to join the Safer Neighborhoods group. You've been invited. There we go. Well, I'm not sure what happened. Thank you all for your patience. Thanks, Cece, right here for her patience.
I'm learning to. We will get it right.
All right, and I do want to say that, Antoine, we have with us today Chris Turnbull and Amanda Holcomb, who are working on the marketing piece of this. And in talking with both of them at different times, I think it's important for them to be a part of this meeting today to get an update on the work that we're doing. because I think a lot of our initial effort is going to be focused around the data that we heard today and this initiative around reducing gang activity and violence and how to message that out. So thank you both for being here. I also want to welcome, and I don't know if she's still in the room,
Was that Chanel?
Chanel.
It
I-
said to Chanel.
Oh, did I? Hold on a second. I didn't mean to send her to a different group.
Technology, gotta love it.
No, I think she left maybe.
Oh, maybe, because I don't see her.
Okay, well, we'll get her back for another meeting. I wanted to thank Jim for inviting her. Chanel is with the, Jim, do you want to reach out to her and see if she can rejoin us?
Yes, sir, I will.
Thank you so much. She is with Richmond's Safe and Thriving program, which is a youth prevention program that they're doing. And it's one of the comparable localities we've been looking at in terms of strategic planning. So take it away, Antoine.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Once again, I am Antoine Calloway, along with Rabbi Kathy Cohen. I am the co-chair of the Reducing Gang Activity, Violence, and Incarceration Recidivism Working Group for the committee. So I am thankful for everyone being here and being able to attend this meeting today. Hopefully you all can hear me fine. Can y'all hear me all right?
Yes.
Good. Okay, great. So as we were looking to hopefully have Chanel Lewis be here and have an opportunity to speak to us concerning the work that Richmond is doing with the Safe and Thriving Richmond. And so hopefully we may be able to get her back on, but I know it was some scheduling. There was some scheduling things that she may have had going on just to be able to get on with us today. So if she's able to, we appreciate it. If not, then what we'll do is continue to move forward with the objectives that Vice Mayor kind of set forward during the whole committee while we were meeting as a whole committee. Do you have the I guess the action plan or the working group action plan? If not, I do have it and could share my screen if you wanted me to.
I will be glad to let you share it.
That is great. All right, can everyone see my screen fine? Let's see. Is that coming up well for everyone?
Yes.
Great. Now, I will admit that I have been having some internet technical difficulties, and not just that, technology all in all. So if I appear to freeze or disappear, Vice Mayor is he's more than capable of handling the meeting after I'm gone. So hopefully the internet will cooperate today. But looking at the actual recommendations, I think the first thing the Vice Mayor has spoken about and that we would like to do as a working group is to identify, we have identified the top priority, but I guess there is some discussion, and Vice Mayor, you can kind of elaborate on this as well. I really don't see it as really being a discussion, but it may be some discussion of, is that our top priority? Is that correct? Is that how you wanted to lay that out?
Yeah.
Yes. So these are the action steps that we have identified under recommendation 1. Recommendation 1 is to encourage greater collaboration between the task force, Roanoke Police Department, community partners, and increase community education and awareness on location, structure, and activities of Roanoke City gang violence. As everyone can see earlier during the entire group, entire committee today, you can actually see that we do have a large police presence from when we began 18 months ago. The Roanoke City Police Department has participated and has begun to participate and provide us some key information. And Officer Johnson has always been on the task force as well, but we're starting to get some more statistical information. But as far as these action steps that we have listed, step 1 through 4 currently, out of these action steps, are there any conversations, and I'll give everyone a brief moment to look them over, Are there any conversations that anyone want to have concerning one of these four being the top priority or being listed as one of our top priorities? And give me a second. I am actually reading them as well. Okay. So number four is identified as our top priority. So excuse me for not noticing that on the document. The number four, hire a youth and gang prevention coordinators to build relationships with youth in the community, create educational programs for community partners, and practice to reduce gang activity and violence, train and coordinate mentoring programs, and facilitate creation of supportive programs for youth, including trauma resilience, employment opportunities. So that is identified as our top priority. And I think it works well with number three, because number three is to identify people in the community that are emerged as gang leaders. And if from my perspective, if we are able to hire or find the right person, this position does become available, then identifying those key community individuals that could emerge to do some mentoring work and be more involved with creating a more positive culture could be identified through that actual gang prevention, youth gang prevention coordinator as well.
Hey, Antoine, just a general question over here, and not the debate which is a top priority or not. But usually if we go out, we're identifying a who, but we've not identified a what in the sense of, and I'm looking at the model. I mean, have we solidified around the model that we want to utilize? And one of the key words that I look at in that statement of number three is, I'm not number three, but the number two actually is around tying something that has been that someone's found success in this. You know, we're embarking on an objective, and you know, sometimes it's nice to have a comparable to know, okay, these things, these actions, these whatever have led to the success that we want. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that identifying that person can't then be a part of identifying that model, you know, and that may be the strategy that we want to go after is just the way it reads as though that person's already got what their measure of success is. It does not include how do we have that model of what we want. I don't know if my question is clear. I mean, but normally it's kind of like, what do you want to do? How do you want to get there to do that? And then it becomes what resources are available to accomplish that. And it sounds like we're saying, give us which again, people go about it at different ways. You know, we're saying, well, we've got a person. So what do we want the person now to do? And how are they going to be able to do that? Which means you now let a level of commitment to the individual without knowing what that person's going to do. You know what I mean? So it's just a question. You know, and again, I'm not, it's more for general question, I guess, if you want to ask over here. Is like, I don't know whether we know the model yet. Like, what are we trying to get after? You know, what are we trying to, you know, have we can identify that, you know, in Roanoke? Because I still got questions about the Danville model, but I'll get to that when we talk about these consultants. But
hold on for 1 second, Elliot, and that's an excellent question, and I can say it may be a balance of both. It may be a balance of, you know, whether or not we can hire the right individual that can continue, that can work on that model after they've been hired. But we have already started the process of identifying models, and that's how we came in contact with Danville, and that's how we've come in contact with Richmond, is because we have been identifying particular models, or at least, and Jim O'Hare has done a great job at making sure to support us with information as a committee that we've kind of used to seeing what the Office of Juvenile Justice is providing as far as programs and the program model that they're using. So we've already kind of identified some key aspects of a model that could be used. And Danville has, when they came and did their presentation last week, they also provided some insight into some things that can be implemented and ways things can be implemented in discussion. So I think we may have already identified some key things.
Not being, again, I got to make a statement without sounding argumentative.
Yes.
What is the model?
Well, the model will be, well, right now we have not identified a specific key model. And
Okay.
that could be the work of the individual is to help us to get to a point. And Vice Mayor, you can jump in, or anyone on the committee can as well, to help, clarify this. But I think it is bringing in a person that would help us to identify, whether it's through focus groups, forums, other things that we need on aspects of the model that we need to implement here in the Roanoke Valley area. Because from my perspective, we do need someone to do this targeted work, and it is a work that they do on a daily basis versus on a volunteer level, or someone coming in as a volunteer to help structure that model. How will it be implemented here? What are the components of that model that needs to be used based on what we've seen from the Office of Juvenile Justice and what we've kind of seen from other models that have already been presented to us? And then we create and be able to flesh out a model that's best for here. And Vice Mayor, if you have anything towards that as well.
Great conversation. And I think Elliot, Elliot and Antoine, you're both spot on. I think we have to know, the model from which we're working. It's one thing to have data about our local gang activity and incidents of violence related to gun violence. It's another thing to want to hire someone to help us more fully develop a program. I think that one of our next steps is probably taking for this working group to take a really close look at the comprehensive gang model that I shared with you all. For us to read that, to review that, to look at the components of that we think are applicable to Roanoke. And that doesn't deter us from advocating for a youth and gang prevention coordinator position, nor does it deter us from working to bring persons already doing this work in some regard in the community together. I think all of those need to go alongside. So maybe it's a rewording of our top priority, and maybe it's something like this, that we're going to review the comprehensive gang model, and I can't remember which department. It's like got 17 letters that are part of the acronym. Jim, do you know the name of the department? It's the Department of Juvenile Justice.
The Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention as the National Gang Prevention Comprehensive Model.
Okay, yeah.
OJJDP.
And so with that being said, Vice Mayor, and I'm asking because I'm being lazy. You know what I'm saying? if we just have to our little subgroup over here, send that model out. And I don't know about anybody else, but I promise myself that I will literally read through the model so that if I've got any type of input or feedback into it, I'll be able to go through it over here. Because that's where you start with the what are we trying to do? Right. We're trying to adopt that model and implement that model. That model, I will tell you, will more than likely tell you the type of resources you would need to effectively implement. I mean, so that's where, forgive me, but I have an engineering degree, so I literally think in terms of linear, what I'm saying, steps by steps, this equals that. So, and again, my comments aren't meant to debate it. We can go whatever direction, and I'm fluid in that nature. But for me to comprehend it and to provide input, I kind of like to see what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. And then we can say that whether that person, which I agree with you, at some point that position is a valuable position. I Just because of the very nature of it, it's going to be it's going to bring value. But it'll be nice to know when that person comes on board to be able to tell them, this is what we're trying to do. This is why you're here.
Perfect. And I want to share with you that Mark Firo, who is with us today, actually just shared with me a best practices to address community gang problems that he wrote, which I will save and also send out to our working group to review. So here's what I wanted to recommend, that our top priority is to review a comprehensive gang model, to review I know there are multiple of these, but I want to hone in, to review comprehensive gang models and develop strategies to implement locally that may include identifying comparable localities with successful models, identifying persons in the community who have emerged from gangs and are working to mentor youth, and hiring a youth and gang prevention coordinator. So it's essentially taking several of those action steps, but rolling them into what we see as part of our combined priority.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would only include, suggest only including one word, to review and adopt. Most objectives need to have a conclusion in it. I'm saying? Reviewing, we can review for the next 29 years. I'm saying? But at some point we need to adopt a model that we're gonna, as a group, say we're gonna move forward with.
Okay. And do you believe that we can do this review and adoption within the next 3 to 6 months?
I would hope it would be sooner than that.
Yes.
I would say within.
Yes.
I mean, I want to be realistic. Do we want to say by the end of the year, which is 2 months? Or by the end of January?
I would say let's give ourselves 90 days.
Okay.
End of January.
90 days. Got it.
Well, we do have the holiday season coming in between here where people kind of check out. So
we can do it by the end of January.
It's COVID. No one's doing anything on holidays.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about COVID.
Yeah. So, everybody's going to have this model right by your bedside and reading it and sharing it with loved ones and all of that good stuff. All right. So thank you, Mark, for sharing that. And I will send that out as well. Okay. Sorry for that interlude, but I think that does help us clarify what our purpose is over the next 90 days. And I think that's something that we can get excited about and encouraged by. And it's also a way for us to begin engaging the larger community in this effort.
Yes.
You all are on the right track. You're doing exactly what you should be doing. Because you need to go through these discussions and these questions. I'm just supposed to be listening. But all the successful, localities that I've seen implement different models and adapt the models to their locality have gone through exactly what you're going through now. So I mean, you have the right people at the table and you're headed in the right direction. So I have no doubt that you're going to be successful.
Thank you. And that's Mark?
Yes, that's me. That's Mark.
Great.
Sorry, I should turn on my camera, but I didn't know I was going to be seeing the vice mayor and all of you fine folks. So I did not dress up today. Otherwise, I would have put a suit on. You can ask Greg.
It's all good.
Never not in a suit.
That's quite fine. No need for that.
Mark, can you put your contact information in the chat box for us?
Sure. And Greg and Tracy will be, Greg, Tracy, and I will be, the contact for DCJS, probably more Greg and Tracy than me. I'm more the money side. Okay. But yeah, I'll definitely put it in there. We've all worked on various models in different cities, and some of us in the same cities. So we have a wide range of experience, Greg has a lot of experience on the juvenile justice side. I'm more on the enforcement side with a lot of community collaboration, but certainly I'll put my information in there. I can help with any kind of technical issues and stuff like that. I'm more of a technical, finance, grants management type of a person, but I'll put it in there.
Thank you. And
Thank
we'll
you.
That's great.
continue to call on you. This is great.
Oh, that is great. So I think we've identified combining uh, action steps 2, 3, and 4 into making it one general top priority that we will begin to address at one time, and then I'm sure that we'll as we consider, we've already decided that it'll be a 90-day process that we need to review, and then the steps that we'll need to take in order to, once we review, we adopt, and then go from the adoption phase into, finding ways to implement that program model that we come across and we define here for ourselves. So that is great. The second task that that was presented to us today, and I guess we could spend the next 15 minutes or so addressing as as we've kind of identified as a youth and gang prevention coordinator as a position. But if we were to look at the fact that we have now changed or combined our top priorities, what would a budget look like for accomplishing that top priority? And understanding that the youth and gang prevention coordinator would be a position that would have to be a full-time position, as well as is there any budgetary needs that go with identifying persons in the community or researching 3 localities. And I know from the past, at one time we were researching localities and even had began discussions of possibility of individuals from the committee, from the committee actually going to different localities and speaking with individuals in the past. So any discussions that we can have concerning what a possible budget would look like, or what would that be for this now newly combined top priority?
I'll just chime in here. Our combined budget for the task force or the study committee for fiscal year 21, that's our current fiscal year, $75,000 has been dedicated toward that. Obviously, a salaried position would take up most of that amount. Now, in talking with our city manager yesterday, one of the recommendations, which I think we could be doing now, is to look at some of the grant cycles for some of our local foundations who are very interested in health and wellness, in preventative work, to identify what those timelines look like and how we might apply for some local funding, particularly as we're thinking further out about how to sustain some of these programs. I do believe that we will see some continued funding in our city budget because it's a priority for us as a city. But I also think we need to look at additional funding. As Mark mentioned earlier, I don't know what funding might be available to us on a state level or as a locality, so we want to stay tuned into that. But I know there are dollars out there, and we just need to be resourceful in finding out what those are and how to go through that application process and build that into our timeline.
I will send you a previous OJJDP proposal that we wrote in Richmond that was successful. Remembering that, not all models are meant for all cities. So, but it'll give you an idea of the structure. And I'll also send you a successful Project Safe Neighborhood and a successful state one, all focused on gun violence reduction. That way, at least you'll have some templates to go by when whoever you get to write starts writing these proposals.
That's great. And my hunch is too that we could collaborate with some of our local grant writers who are eager to assist. This is another way to engage community partners. This might be a budget consideration too, Antoine, that if we're going to contract with a grant writer, we'll need to factor in what their hourly rate would be and probably do an RFP for that. But I think we can include that in our work over these next 3 months.
Vice Mayor, we don't have those positions staffed as part of the general Roanoke municipality?
No.
Grant. You don't?
No, each department, basically, if they have a grant, they seek out their own grant, and it's usually somebody within the department that does the grant writing. So to give you an example, when we applied for the through the Burn Justice Fund for the Community Mitigation Coordinator, the reset coordinator position, someone in the police department who works with those grants for the department actually facilitated the writing of that grant. So now that's not to say that there may not be someone in, and this is a conversation I can have with the city manager about, there may be someone who's already doing that kind of work, not full time, but as part of their work that we could ask to do the writing for us. So I just think that needs to be part of our research into how best to get this done.
Yeah. And start with the city police department.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if someone outside of just the general broader community would have a vested interest in reducing gun violence, one would think it would be the ones.
Exactly. Jamie has a comment here. Isn't that a bummer when your mic doesn't work, Jamie? Wanted to say that I appreciate the comment by Mark about models not necessarily working for every city. I think it's important to base our work on a model with the forethought that we will need to adjust it to fit to Roanoke's needs. I think we would all agree with you on that, Jamie.
Yeah.
That's critical.
Yes, thanks for that insight. And that is critical, and it is a bummer when the mic does not work. So I understand. I guess in making that decision or even coming up with a budget, a projected budget, some of it is, and from my perspective, is looking at it, the overall budget, if it's 75,000, how much has actually been allocated out to the other aspects of the committee? And I know marketing had allocated a significant amount of money to of funds to do the marketing as well. So it's really what do we need projected, and then once we have a projected budget, how do we accomplish getting things done or taking care of any kind of shortfalls? And I understand through grant writing or possible funding from foundations and other organizations. But if we do identify that the budget that we're going to need, and we know a considerable amount is going to be used for a position, that position will probably take and consume, a position could actually consume more than half of our current budget. So we're going to have to really think really hard about how do we pick up that shortfall and be able to accomplish that as well.
Exactly. Well, as you said, I think the marketing budget will be substantial, but I don't think they're at a point yet of really utilizing that. I think they're wanting to identify key messaging areas and what we might be able to do on a smaller scale. And what I mean by that is, how can we as a task force report out the work that we're doing, not just on our website, but through social media, through other avenues? How do we message that out? How do we start connecting with people in the community, stakeholders? So I think that's a little further down the road. I think that the Safer Neighborhoods group is likely to come back with some funding requests for their public art project. I don't know what that will mean. I would venture to say that the rapid response effort in our city services group, including some training, will be a budgeted amount. And then within education, it really probably comes down to the curricula that they identify, if that's something that we're creating on our own, or if it's another model that we're adapting to Roanoke. And that I think could show a lot of fluctuation in terms of cost and how that's developed out. So we'll probably have a better idea when the groups report back in a few minutes.
Yes. So what would be the, I guess then what we would have to do is research what would kind of be a contracted rate for a grant writer if we could not get it volunteered or city department, or we couldn't get it done through a city department. Then we need to try to figure out what that amount is for that. And then moving forward, try to figure out, are there any costs associated with trying to do any of the identifying of people in the community that can be engaged or they can be emerged, gangs, for working with gangs and being mentors? And what does that look like? Is that, we can't do focus groups, so we'd have to do Zoom.
Right.
Will we be able to do presentations through Zoom, or how will we do outreach beyond that? Because a lot of these individuals are not going to come to us. We would have to go to them.
Right.
And that would be, that requires in the time of a pandemic, or in the times of what, from COVID, that could be something that we'd have to be, have some major concerns about as well.
Exactly. And I think alongside that, as we're reviewing these models, if we notice positions that have been hired to help activate these models, to do some salary comparisons, so that we can have a range that we're looking in. I know that the range that we received for the Danville position was somewhere between 69,000 and 90-some thousand, depending on the market. So, and I think our human resources department could also help us in that regard.
Well, so, and I leave this for an open discussion, and even with the vice mayor, I haven't heard any dollar signs, and I haven't heard any money or any particular, what would that be projected budget be? And is that what we're trying to make sure that we have accomplished before we get back with the larger group?
Well, to be fair, I think at a minimum, it would be 75,000, which is our whole budget. So
I thought the same thing, but then I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to be the one to say that.
It's all right, but I don't know that we have, I think we need more information. But I think what we can do is, once we hear where the other working groups are coming in terms of their budget requests, then that will help us more clearly identify and hone in on what we want to do as well. I think it's clear that from our top priority, much of what we're going to do right now is not going to require any budgeted money, but that potentially our budget may include the hiring a position, as well as potentially contracting a grant writer.
Yep.
And we don't know the data on that. Question in the chat box: the whole budget is the study committee budget that's in the city budget, which is currently $75,000. Also, we have in the chat box, Debbie Bell would be a great part of our working group. We need to reach out to her, Mark. And then Amanda says, Council of Community Services can help identify grant writers as well. And the marketing campaign can probably have sponsors to help with costs, and we can seek donated services too. So great to have all these people on our team. All right, I'm going to close the rooms and bring everybody back in.
Thank you, everyone.
You have 56 seconds for last thoughts.
Very talkative everyone is today. That is great.
Good discussion, everybody.
Yes, we appreciate it.
Vice Mayor, are we going to discuss this consultant proposal, or that's for another time?
I think we need to do that another time. We do need to set a next working group meeting. And I would be fine with looking at next Friday before the Thanksgiving break. Are you all good for that?
Yes.
Sounds good to me.
All
Yes.
right. What is
Yeah, I'm
that
good.
date? What's that date?
20th.
Yep, the 20th.
Okay.
Chanel Lewis said that she may be able to join us at a subsequent meeting too. She apologized she had to jump off.
Okay. Let's go with the 20th then at 10. And if she can join us that day, that'd be great.
Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna stop. Antoine, can you close out your screen for me?
Certainly can.
There we go. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Let's take a few minutes to report back on where we are. And I'm going to ask our Safer Neighborhoods group to report first. And I guess that might be you, Tim.
It is indeed. So question, how do we make the budget request?
So we can make a request through the study committee to the city manager's office.
Right, no, but what I mean is, do we just tell you what we're asking? Because that was part of our.
Yeah.
Okay. So our immediate task just is, I sent an email to the flyer to the group for the bridging the community gap, which is Thursday, December 10th from 6 to 7, starting at the Martin Luther King statue and moving towards the Roanoke Christmas tree. If you can advertise that, we will practice social distancing and masking with that event. To the task at hand, our long-term and top priority is the creation of this, as Joe mentioned earlier, this public art event that seeks to gather stories from various neighborhoods in the city. What safety looks like in your neighborhood, how safe you feel in your neighborhood, what's exciting about your neighborhood, what concerns you. Gathering that information through an interactive chalkboard that would travel around the city where people could interact. There would also be a smartphone component to that where we would seek to gather more information. Hopefully then would be able to do some follow-up interviews with folks who might be willing, moving towards the creation of an interactive GIS map where people would hear stories. We recognize that gun violence and these acts from the police department, these are not equally distributed throughout the city. But just because it's not happening in our neighborhood, or maybe because it is happening in our neighborhood, this still is one city. And there is a sense where one succeeds, we all succeed, where one struggles, we all struggle. And we want to help people recognize the goodness and the struggles from across the city. Knowing that a lot of people have different feelings, attitudes about guns. Some people, hey, it's not safe, let's get rid of the guns. Some people say, hey, it's not, let's get more guns. But digging down beneath that to hear the stories underneath, we think is a valuable component. Our request then would be for $2,000. That's, I can break that up, but that's $2,000 for construction materials and some software needs that we perceive we'll need.
Okay. You can send the breakdown to me.
I will.
All right. Thank you. Next group is education.
Hi, this is Decca. I am reporting Tasha had to drop off the meeting. So we discussed the platform that we're using in Roanoke City Public Schools to assess the social emotional learning of our students. And that is actually rolling out this coming Monday on November 16th. The survey is called the Panorama Program. And that program is going to look at the social emotional wellness of our students from 3rd grade to 12th grade. And we should have that data after the new year. And what we discussed in our group is that we are going to request that that data be brought to this group once that data is analyzed. And that data is actually very specific for our students. We can look at the social emotional strengths and weaknesses of students individually, of a classroom, of a school. And what is unique about the Panorama platform is that it actually hooks up with a number of different social emotional learning curricula. So that we can individualize the learning for those individual classrooms and those individual schools. So we also discussed how we are going to look at the Panorama platform and the curricula that are associated with it, and then try to figure out what type of curricula we could push out to the community as a whole. So that we have that synchronicity. And then we also talked about the other part of doing the survey that was mentioned earlier. We had some concerns about doing a trauma-specific survey. There are numerous reasons for that, is that when you are looking at what we call adverse childhood experiences and surveying specifically for that, there can be a number of issues around that. And what we discussed as a group is proposing that instead we use the data from Panorama to look at empathy and relationships instead. And again, we will have that data at the beginning of the new year. So at this time, we don't have any budget requests. We're going to continue to look at Panorama and figure out what curricula would match best with that for the community. And is there anything else that I'm missing, Karen?
That was great. Thank you, Decca.
We do,
okay.
we do need, I think we need a new copy of what our charge has been as a work group, because we today learned about the supporting the gun policy at Roanoke City Schools, that we were supposed to be educating our, that was one of our charges. And we'd all like to take a look at that. Philip was great to provide it to us, but he wasn't sure if he had the most recent copy. So maybe if that could go to Decca, and then Decca could push it out to us.
I'll just send I'll send the original charge out to everybody. Okay.
That'd be great.
Also, I'm going to ask each leader that's reporting out, if you can please send a summary of what you've shared this morning. If you can email that to me, and I'll include that in our summary report to council that Shakira will be presenting on Monday. That would be very helpful. Mark, you can email resources to joseph.cobb@roanokeva.gov. joseph.cobb@roanokeva.gov. Okay, next is Antoine with the Gang Activity and Violence Reduction Working Group.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. During our working group, we had a discussion about the top priority that was identified, that was given to us, which was hiring a youth gang prevention coordinator. A discussion began about an understanding of a model, and maybe we should start with the what needs to be accomplished, and looking at what we're looking to accomplish through a model of addressing gang violence, through addressing that with youth and within youth. So from that discussion, what we decided to do is we're probably going to be looking to combine under recommendation 1, we're looking to combine the action steps that we have listed. We're looking to combine action step 2, 3, and 4 together, and then looking at them and the means of first and foremost identifying localities and identifying a model a gang prevention model. Once we identify one, to begin to adopt one, not necessarily just identifying and reviewing, but to adopt a model that would be best for our area by looking at different best practices. We do have some information that I'm sure Vice Mayor will share with the entire committee to make sure that they have a chance to look at and review as well. But we'll be looking to review that information and then adopt a model, find a model that we can adopt for this locality. And then after that, we're going to see about the possibilities of what it looks like as far as hiring a youth gang prevention specialist to do the rest of the work that we need to have accomplished. So we were in the discussion, our number was very high for a budget. So we thought we would wait to listen and hear everyone else's budget. And then also we were thinking of ways that we may be able to apply for grant funding to offset any kind of shortfall that we may have if we have a larger budget than what we're currently allocated through the city, and how we can balance that out and do the work. And Vice Mayor was there. Was there anything else, Vice Mayor?
Oh, I think just that we reiterated that we want to review and adopt this comprehensive gang reduction model in the next 90 days. So our goal is to have that accomplished by the end of January. Okay. Our next group is City Services and Rapid Response.
Good morning, everyone. We reviewed a flyer that will go out to service providers that will have some great resource information on it and contacts. Some of that will be how to navigate resources. The other thing that was a big topic of conversation was response availability for that coordinated community response. And while you may not be on that rapid response team with us, if you are interested in being part of the 24-hour response or coordinated response, please, if you are, reach out to me or Shakira or Lloyd or someone that's on our team. And while it might not be necessary that you come to the scene or have an on-scene response, it may mean that you are making phone calls or lining things up for a family or coordinating resources. So that's part of the discussion. We're really just looking for the folks that would be willing and available to be part of that coordinator response team and be on call in the event that there would be a situation. Most recently, we've had somewhat of an impromptu team out of a couple of the last incidents with gun violence, and things have gone relatively well there, even though there wasn't a formalized structure. But we were able to make some phone calls and make some things happen and do some relocations. So if you are interested, please reach out. As far as budgeting goes, we're really looking to kind of leverage a lot of the players and resources and people that are involved here. However, though, there will need to be some monies for relocations and emergency sheltering, which has come up a lot here lately in some of the incidents that we've had. It does cost money to place people in emergency shelter and hide people and relocate people. And so we're anticipating anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. That's just a ballpark figure. And that really wasn't a discussion for the team today. That's just kind of based on experience with what we're looking at out of a couple of recent incidents. Some of those have even looked at out-of-state incidents or moving people out of state. The other discussion was setting up some memorial funding for people to give to hopefully Fed Up, which we're still working to make that 501c3, and people could actually give in memory of folks that have been lost to gun violence or violence in general. And help kind of fund some of those necessary things. So that makes it even more important to get that 501c3 started for Fed Up, and we're still working on that. We also reviewed several resources that are available from the Virginia Victim Network and some flyers there, some great resources for advocacy response and also funding that's available from the Virginia Victim Network. And that was the completion of our meeting.
That's great. Thank you, Stacy. And I know that marketing is not on here. I don't believe they were with us, but and Chris isn't still here, but I know that again, they're going to have a strategy session on December 3rd. And that's just a beginning step. I know that the marketing budget, depending on the size and phases of a marketing campaign, will be significant, depending on what we're able to leverage locally. So I think we'll be looking at, we'll identify a closer amount to that for startup funds, and then what sustainable funding would look like. In terms of the gang, any kind of a funded staff position or hired position, we're going to be looking at anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000. That's just probably the range, which is the bulk of our budget. We're not there yet, but as we mentioned in our working group, one of the things we're looking at is what kind of funding is available. The Council of Community Services has a lot of resources in terms of grant writers. We know that we have some grant writers in our different departments in the city, so we need to discern who those folks are, but also work with some of our community partners who can assist in this regard. So again, those of you who've reported out, just send me email me a summary of what you shared, and we'll incorporate that into our presentation to council on Monday. You all were doing really good work. All of us, I think, wish we could have a quick fix to these struggles that we're facing, but we know we don't have a quick fix, but everyone's working hard, and every step that we take as a committee and working groups is a step toward health and wholeness for our community. And so I really appreciate your time and your energy and your continued enthusiasm about doing this important work. Any other questions before we close? Our next meeting will be Friday, as a full committee, will be Friday, December, pull it up here, 11th. And our working groups are encouraged to meet in between. I know the gang violence reduction and recidivism group is going to meet next Friday, the 20th. If your working group decides to meet between now and then, please let me know that date so that we can post it on our city website. And I can share out those dates and times. And a reminder from Stacy that to all who may be considering being a part of the 24-hour coordinated response team, you can let Stacy know that as well. All right, anything else? Thank you all again for your time today, and we'll look forward to seeing you and being with you again soon. And I will say that the presentation for council will be next Monday at 2 o'clock during the 2 o'clock session. Virtually. So if you want to tune in virtually, that would be great. And I'll send out a reminder about that. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.